Broadcasting live from the Wellness Wonderland, you're listening to the Wellness Wonderland Radio. I'm Katie, and each week I chat with the most inspirational people on the planet on how to stay inspired in all areas of life. As you listen, feel free to tweet at me at Katie Dalebout or use the hashtag Wellness Wonderland. I'd love to hear your aha moments. So grab your headphones and listen on the go, or cuddle up with a notebook as we dive in deep with authentic conversations right here in Wonderland. Hi everybody, welcome back to the show. I am so glad you're here. I'm going to keep this intro so brief because today's episode is not brief. It is amazing and a little bit long and just normal sized, but it's with one of my best friends in the entire world, and you might recall her if you've been a long time listener. She was on episode, 2, 3, 4, one of the very first episodes. Her name is Carly, and she is the genius behind Culinary Karma, and she's become one of my best friends in the entire world, and she's changed and grown a lot since about almost 3 years ago when I very first interviewed her. And now you get to hear us have our second recorded conversation, but we've had many a conversation just like this one that we don't record, and we thought we would try to record one, and because we end up talking about some really interesting, delightful, fascinating, hopefully helpful things in our conversations with each other. So we thought we would share this one with you. And she's doing a lot of cool new things now. She has this sexy self-care course coming out that I just have to plug because I love it. And I actually encouraged her to create it because she's really helped me in that area of my life. And now I know she's going to be helping a lot of other people, perhaps you as well. So if you're interested in that, click the link in the show notes and it will take you to her program. So if you want to support the show, how do you do it? You tell a friend, of course. You guys already know the drill, but I'm going to go through it. Telling a friend is so helpful, brings more people to the show. You can leave a review on iTunes. Give me some 5 stars. That would be so cool. You can also donate. A couple of you have donated, and thank you so much. It means the world to me. Like I've been saying, it helps me produce the show. And a shout out to Amanda, my amazing producer, who's also a listener, who responded to my call and is helping me out with these episodes. So donate to our efforts. That would be so helpful. Yes, throw some change our way, if you feel like it. Not an obligation at all. This will always be a free podcast. You never, ever have to donate. You never, ever have to leave a review. You never, ever have to tell a friend. But it sure would be cool if you did, right? If you really like the show. So don't feel any pressure, but I am just gonna, I'm just gonna say it. And if you want to join the Facebook group to meet other people who listen to the show and perhaps talk to them, perhaps hang out with them in the physical, by meeting in the Facebook group, come join the Facebook group. Get the link in the show notes. And yeah, I have so many cool things happening in my life that I really, in the podcast world, that are going to be coming to you. So yeah, just get excited. The show is weekly again. Praise everything. That is amazing. Yeah, love you guys. Love the show. I love Carly so much, and I know you will too. So today we have one of the few repeat guests, and this is going to be a different type of an episode because I'm talking to one of my best friends in the entire world, Carly Gross of Culinary Karma. You all know her, you all love her, and I love her, and today we get to eavesdrop on us just catching up and hanging out, basically. So we talk on the phone a lot. We drive on long drives together, and we even go on walks together, even though we don't live in the same state, because we just talk to each other on the phone and have these really deep conversations and laugh a lot. And we've been saying for a while, sometimes we'll hang up and we'll be like, oh, we should have recorded that. Or in the middle, we'll be like, we should be recording this because some wisdom usually comes up. Or not. Or it's just like funny and weird. either way, win-win. But so we thought that a lot of people could relate to us and our friendship and our story and Carly's story in particular. So here we are, deciding to record it finally. So thank you for coming back to Wonderland, Carly, and recording our conversation.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be doing this like this. It's so fun to just, we really have been saying to do this for forever. So
yeah,
here we are. Time flies.
Yeah, here we are. I've been saying this for like 2 years. But yeah, the weird thing about us and our friendship, well, we met online. And if anyone wants to hear our first ever conversation, go to episode 3, maybe 2 episode. I don't know. It's one of the very first. It was
surprisingly good. Like, it was surprisingly a good one, right?
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say it's hilarious to like have our very first conversation recorded with like now someone who's one of my best friends. And Carly and I, for the people listening, I visited her in Florida a couple months ago, and we drove across the state of Florida on like a 4-hour drive, 4-hour drive? Long drive.
Three-ish. Yeah. Well, with our pit stops. Probably.
Yeah, and we took some fun pit stops. We went to the beach, we went on a walk, we peed in the woods. Can I say that?
All the good things.
Yeah. All the good things. And yeah, we actually drove across the state to Tampa to visit another podcast guest who is now our very good friend, Alex Beaton. And we laughed so hard on the drive, and we, lots of things happened. We joked that we were, in a little pod that was, this, truth pod, you're just getting to know each other and but we already knew it was just deep conversation pod. And during that we decided, hey, let's listen to our very first ever conversation. So we put on my podcast to listen to the very first time we ever spoke. And we were laughing a lot and kind of seeing how we've both grown. I've grown as an interviewer since then for sure, and Carly's grown at what she shares and the type of teacher she is for sure. But there are a lot of things that we both said that were yeah, I believe that now too. Yep, same, yep. So that's just kind of interesting. But let's dive in there. Since you've been here, and people can listen to that episode if they are new. But since that conversation that was 3 years plus ago now, what are some main things that have changed for you? So let's bring people up to the present and where you are in your life now and how you've grown as a person in recent years. And I think we talked about this a lot, but being in our 20s, our early 20s, we change very quickly, and we're constantly changing and learning more about ourselves. So in the past few years, what are some of the main things that you think that you've learned?
So funny. There's been so much, because was that 3 years ago?
It was, yeah-ish. Wow. It was right before you were still in Florida and you hadn't moved to Berkeley yet. Yes. So Carly is from Florida, everyone, and she lived there, and she moved to Berkeley to go to school and lived in Berkeley and had a lot of self-learning and healing and experiences there. And then now she's back in Florida, and she's about to move back to California. So
and then back to Florida again.
And then back to Florida again. Yeah. So
anyways,
so what have you learned?
So much.
There's a map of her life for everyone.
It's just there's no way I could possibly cover everything. But what I will say is that if you listen to that first episode, we talked a lot about, we just kind of, even though my message was still listen to your body, it was still wrapped around food and nutrition. It was still it was still wrapped around listen to your body, around that. And now I feel I've grown so much where it's not just about food and nutrition. It's that's just a tiny little piece on the puzzle of life, and it's all about filling ourselves up in so many ways. There's so many things that nourish us, love and pleasure and trust and experience and adventure, and all of these things add up to our nutritional levels and our health and our sleep and our self-love, and so many things add to that. And I think that first episode and the journey from where I was back then to where I am now, it's like life has given me all of these experiences where I have felt the presence of my own care. I felt, different experiences in the universe, like grounding, like getting, like knowing the earth, like meeting different people, travel, like all of these different things have really taught me to teach and to share that, we get filled up in so many different ways. And that is what's most important to me, because that seems like holistic health. And food is just one small part of it. And sometimes when we give ourselves that presence and that care and that attention and that like deep self-love, we figure out what we need to be eating anyways. That's where the intuitive eating comes into play, because we're like filling ourselves up on love and on care and on spirit and on all of these things that, it's almost as if we teach ourselves. So I feel like that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because I mean, all of those things, like our relationships and our creativity, all of that's like our primary food, and then actual food is our secondary food. But the interesting thing of why I think that conversation really kind of went in that direction is definitely what you said, because you were in that space and that was where you were then, but also I was as well. So I was directing the conversation with questions about, how much fat and what types of fat, because I was like, I want to know that for myself. And at the time, basically only I was listening. So that would make sense.
No, you had some supportive pod viewers.
Yeah, like you, basically. But now it's what I always say to people is, when you're first getting started with a blog or a podcast or making videos, like make them like you have hundreds of people listening and watching, because eventually when you do, those people are going to go back and look at your archive and they'll want that content. So that's what I did, and here we are. So, with your relationship to food and your body image, how has that improved and changed in the last couple of years? And when did you kind of realize that, like, it's what you just said there, that, like, it's not all about the food, and you were going, because you kind of went in the other direction for a while with cleansing and being really, really focused on the food and the physical. When did
remember when you guys, for a while, me and Katie kind of like stopped talking for a month or something, because I was really deep in like the cleansing realm, and that's just another space to be, and it was just
Yeah. And I kind of went through this thing. I wasn't going to share this, but like this is a good thing to share. Like I was trying to shift away from that, because that's also my tendency. Like I've done every cleanse too. Not as many as you, but I've done quite a few. And that was fascinating, because I was trying to get out of that, and like I would see Carly, like only eating apples and like weird tonics, and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I should be eating apples and weird tonics. But wait, I just ate a meal, and like I just had like food that I chewed, and I'm so bad, and it's so easy. And then I like checked myself, and I was like, wait a minute, like I'm not bad for eating food, because my friend is on some like cleanse in the woods. Like it's okay. But yeah, I had to like kind of remove myself for that a bit. And then now we talk and joke about it all the time, and we're like closer than ever. But it's interesting to note that, I think, for people to be like, everyone's on their own path. Like I never like texted Carly and was like, stop eating apples, like have a freaking, some avocado toast and like call it a day. Like I never said that, but eventually like it just happened, and she did, and like it's fine, you know what I mean? And like we all have to come to that ourselves, because I knew that like if I was in that space, and people came to me and were like, stop doing this, stop cleansing, stop eating this way, eat more, do whatever, I would just be like, F you, like, no, I'm on this path, and this is what I'm doing, and you're so grounded in it that you can't see it another way. And I think it's really important for people to know that. And then also, like, if you're not all the way healed, which I wasn't, that can be very triggering to you to be like,
Right.
I should be doing that. And then you're making yourself wrong for having a meal or doing something that's not that way. So I think social media is a very tricky thing in that department, where you're seeing your mentors or friends that you're close with and you really respect, or just straight up people you follow online that you think are cool, and they're doing something that you're not doing, but you kind of wish you are doing, or you might think that you should be doing on some level. It's easy to, instead of just be inspired by that, it's easy to like be, oh my God, I should be doing that, and making yourself wrong. And I think that that's really negative for your health. And that's something that I really try to shield myself from with who I follow now. And I've diversified who I follow. So I follow like comedians and, people that inspire me creatively. And
Pete Holmes.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with him. If you know him, tell me so we could get him on the podcast. I have to tell you something about that after this, but
Okay.
but anyways, I mean, I think it's really important to diversify who you follow. And Carly and I, I'll share this on your behalf, in the last couple of years, actually, I would say this is like in the last 6 months, really, for us. We've both really diversified what we follow and what we're into, because I think at a time for both of us, we were both very laser focused on nutrition and food, and then a spirituality. But even that, that's personal development, so we were so focused in that world. And now, we're both still really fascinated and into those things, but we also like watched an episode of Girls together when we were, hanging out, and we like talk about other things and talk about boys and talk, you know what I mean? So it's really like, it's good to be a well-rounded person, and and like not so laser focused. But so when did you realize that your relationship with food and your body image was maybe something that wasn't as beneficial to your life as you thought it was?
Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely realized this when I was doing, I guess you would call it a lot of healing work. I was doing like tons of cleanses and just tons of what I thought was like deep personal development. But what it was also, and like spirituality work. And what it was is it was actually holding me back, because I was thinking that my thought pattern was that if I'm not perfectly healed, if I'm not perfectly, have my perfect body and health, and if I'm not like my highest self, like in my, radiant divine feminine, then like I should just stay home, right? Like I'm not my highest self. I'm not, shining. I'm not healed enough. And that's, I wrote that book Already Healed, but like still, I was still kind of in that journey of like, oh, it's like that story of I'm not good enough. But for me, it was like in something that like usually for some people, it's like such a, abundance in their life to like go on this health and spirituality path. And it is for me as well too, of course. Like it still has like greatly enhanced my life, but there came a point when I realized like, okay, but this is I'm holding myself back because I'm still trapping myself by not being good enough in this, And so I realized that I needed to go out into the world and show up as myself, who I am in the day. I needed to love myself, who I was in the day, and I needed to experience pleasure in that day. And by having that realization, I was able to just, let go of so much that was weighing me down, of like expectations of myself. And so that was really powerful realization. And it just produces so much in my life, because it's like there's nothing holding me back from doing anything now. It's just like, like traveling to Thailand by myself. I was so scared to do that at first, but it was like I knew that I needed to do that, because that was it was fearful. And it's like, if we're not pushing ourselves in those things, then how do we grow? That is the real growth. I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to grow by doing a cleanse and meditating. And maybe I did, of course, because it brought me to where I am today. But I find that most of the growth happens like in reality as it exists now.
Yeah, 1000%. And I think that, they always say, like, you can sit in a cave and be a monk and meditate all day, or you can, like, go out in the world when you're going to get knocked off your path and see how zen you can be.
Exactly.
And I think, this is so funny that you brought that up about, wanting to be your highest self all the time. And if you weren't, like, what's the point type of a thing?
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation with my coach. Her name's Cora. She's going to be on the pod. I'm not sure when this is going to air. Probably her episode will come on after, but I've already recorded it. But anyways, and I like to share a lot of, the things that I'm dealing with myself and what comes up with my coach, with Carly and vice versa. And I was going to tell you this anyways, Carly, but Coral told me this great story where she was like with a shaman or a healer in the Amazon or something, and she was saying, like, he just looked at her and he was like, you're never going to be your highest self all the time. So just stop trying to be her. She's great and you'll drop into her, but stop trying to be her. You're not her. You're a human, and like embrace your humanness.
Yeah.
And I like that changed everything for me, because it's like, oh, I'm human and I'm going to only be in this human body for so long that I might as well embrace the fact that, like, I'm not perfect and I might have moments of it, but the moments that I'm not it can be beautiful as well if I just embrace it and let that happen. So
I love that she got this message channeled through him to her, but it's like for you too. It's
yeah,
like
and now for you, and now for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Wow. So we all basically talked to a shaman today. Very cool.
I was actually talking to my sister. I'm with my sister, and I haven't seen her
cool.
for...
I didn't know she was there with you.
Yeah. So I've been with her all day yesterday, and she just got back from
like a shaman.
Peru.
She gives us a lot of inspiration, too. Tell her that.
Yeah, she was telling me all these, like, really deep, intense shaman stories from Peru. That's a different realm, but I'm glad that Cora got that message for all of us to hear.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, and we talk about this a lot, Carly, like, being grounded. Like, it's really good to be into all of this stuff, but we've all met people who, and I've been one of them, and you've been one of them, who are so into it that you can't see our humanness and can't be grounded in the world. And I think and what you and I really try to do with our work is, like, have these experiences, but also ground ourselves in this really human way. And I think that's really crucial, and finding that balance can be a challenge. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Finding the balance in grounding. Yeah. I'm trying to think.
I mean, I think there's tricky. Not really one right answer. I think it's something that it's just like, I think it's having conversations like this. I think also, like, having people, it's so easy to get so into, we used to talk about this with food, right? Like, it's so easy to get so into something and then be really, like, preachy about it. Like, you should not eat this, you should eat this, you should eat more of this. And, like, when I first got started in that, like, I was totally that way. And then you realize that, like, oh, no, everyone has their own path. That's annoying. And it was the same thing with, like, getting into personal growth and spirituality. You gain so much from it. So suddenly you want everyone in your life and then everyone in the world to gain so much of it. And, but at the same time, again, it can be annoying and everyone's on their own path. So I think it's just about finding the balance of, like, share by being it. Just be the light, be the change, and then the people around you will just lead by example. They'll emulate that, or they'll want to know more and ask you, and then that's an open door to talk about it. But if not, just keep it to yourself and just be it, and take off your mala beads and just be the light, and everyone will see that you're shining.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, that is the deepest truth, is that your energy speaks way louder than your words and how you look. Like, what is inside and what you emanate from your soul, like from the deep within, really, really, shines. I think that I told you about this one time, but I think that a year ago I was at like a Halloween party, and I was like a cacao goddess, and I brought like raw chocolates, and I was like painting everyone's with raw chocolate sauce. But anyways, I think that I told you this, that my skin was breaking out, and I had a lot of like stuff going on around my skin, and I got so many comments that night of like, whoa, you have amazing skin. And I was just like, what? And it was just like, I think that on my journey I realized that is such a truth, that like what is inside really shines out. And that was a big lesson that night. But isn't that funny?
Oh my God, it's hilarious. And okay, so I wasn't gonna share this on the podcast, but hopefully you don't mind. Like, probably people relate. So Carly and I are really close, and we share like everything with each other, basically. Like, we text like all day long, and then like talk on the phone about stuff. And it's really nice to have this friend who like you can be so close with, who you can talk about like the weird stuff that your body does and like all of this stuff, right? So and I don't know anyone else who has this issue. You know it's coming. And maybe people listening will, and then they'll feel less alone, so that's why I'm sharing it. But we both have had experiences with what we think is called acid reflux. We call it, I made a reflexy. I was like, we need a new name for it. The other day we were texting, and I made up like a funny name for it.
That's because we started calling organics organies from Pete Holmes.
Yeah, in the Pete Holmes podcast, he was saying, oh, are your berries organics? And he's like, oh yeah, always organies.
Organies.
So now we call organics organies, and acid reflux acid reflexy? I don't know. Maybe we need a better one for that. Let us know if you have it. But anyways, basically it's like this really uncomfortable feeling. And again, we are not the only two people on the planet who have this. However, it's not talked about like candida, I don't think, in the health world.
Like candida.
Yeah, it's not like everywhere. So anyways, it's this really uncomfortable feeling that you get after eating certain foods, or what we've discovered recently, it really has nothing to do with necessarily the foods that you eat. A lot of times it's how you eat the foods, and the energy and the speed and how much air you take in of eating the foods. But basically it's like an uncomfortable thing that could last like an hour or a day. Sometimes it's happened for me, where you kind of like have... it's so gross. Like, we were talking about it.
I feel like you're coming out.
I'm coming out.
Really
I am. Good. It does. It felt great to come out to you, and now I'm coming out to the world. So we both have this. And so on days, I guess I should say what it feels like. It's just like a little gross, like nasty, like burpish thing that like comes up, and then it's done. And sometimes they're really far apart. Sometimes they're closer together. Please tweet at us if you have this, so we feel less alone. But yeah, it's this uncomfortable sensation, and it was really paralyzing to both of us. Like, on a day that Carly would have it, she would text me and be like, oh, I have it today, I don't feel like doing anything, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, that's such a bummer, like, I feel good today. And then same thing would happen to me. I'd be like, dang it, it's a day where I have this. And the reason I bring this up is because it was so powerful to be able to share this with each other, because we could stop beating ourselves up, because we could kind of like caretake each other. So like on a day that I had it, Carly would be like, oh, no, like maybe it's not even what you ate. Maybe it's just like, you know, did you eat kind of fast, or like were you feeling stressed? And I was like, yeah, dang it, you know.
And also, it doesn't matter. Go out in the world and do your shit.
Exactly. Exactly. And that advice changed everything, because it's so easy to be like, I'm going to just stay in whatever, and we just decided that wasn't going to happen, and then it went away. And just like the thing with the skin, no one notices. In fact, like you're fine, and no one's like, it's even less so than the skin. But talk about that a little bit, like on a day where like you've had it and you've challenged yourself to go out, and what's happened.
Yeah.
We're outing this. I'm sorry. I just had to do it. It just came out of me.
I love it.
It was a secret between us, but no longer.
I love it. It feels really good. So, yeah, I think that those times when I am triggered by a certain thing, you know, sometimes like my triggers are like body, because I've had a lot of body discomfort in my life. And so when there's something like that comes up, I am triggered to want to probably like stay home or whatever. But I realize that those are the moments when the light comes in the most. Those are the moments when we awaken the most, when we can see what is going on, see our trigger, and see like, okay, this is what my pattern would be, but I'm going to do the opposite. And when I do the opposite, I honestly have like really transformational moments. Like I can remember times of, you know, being like, I'm just gonna go out, like there's this event that I really want to go to, and I end up meeting like someone so like that I needed to meet, like, you know, like it was like a clear sign that like, wow, you go girl, like you needed to leave and you did it, and this is your reward, you needed to meet this person. Like so many of those things happen to me, synchronicities. And so I think that if you want to look at if you're listening and you want to look at your triggers and do the opposite and like stand up and just do, you know, live your life anyways, you know, look out for those synchronicities, look out for messages, because that, you know, the universe is always giving us clues everywhere, every moment, you know, like everything is for us to receive. Everything that we see out there is, you know, a gift. And so if we open our eyes to receive, we see all of those. But especially in those moments of, you know, challenging yourself. It is a challenge. It's not easy. It's a huge challenge to go against something that would be your norm. But that's the growth. That's the growth.
Yeah, 1000%. And I think, you know, two things to take away from this. Like, one is that you and I, like, when that would happen to us, and with, you know, acid refluxy, or if you have a better name for that, tweet us, because maybe we need a cuter one. But also, skin is a huge one, and we've both struggled with that as well, on and off. And that's, you know, probably even more so with that one because it's such a visible thing. But both of us really, in the past, would obsess about, we did this to us. Like, what did we eat? Like, what caused this? And, like, really going back, and maybe I should cut this out, or I had that with that, or I went to that, you know, whatever. And we would just obsess about that. And I think, like you said, doing the opposite of going out, having a fun experience, getting out of the house is huge. We'll talk about that in a second. We found is huge for us, body image wise. And with those other issues, but it gets you out of the focus on yourself, and you can focus on the world, and that's really helpful because you'll forget about those experiences. I had an experience where, like, I wasn't feeling super great last weekend, and I was texting you about this, Carly, and I ended up like hanging out with friends and going to visit friends, and it was amazing, and I forgot about it, and then it just like went away, and it was fine. But I think if I would have had a night where I would have stayed in, I probably would have been obsessing about it. I probably would have noticed it more, and I would have been more unhappy. So if you think about, like, you know, I think our tendency as humans is, like, if we feel discomfort or we look how we don't want to look, we tend to want to stay in, like we said, and we think that will kind of heal us. But really, I think what's more healing is going out in the world and being around people, because I think we need that when we're vulnerable and we're like needing healing more. We need the help of being around other people to kind of help us. So I don't know. That's kind of what I think now.
Yeah, two things. I was talking to our friend Heather Waxman, love Heather, hi, yes, on the phone the other night, and we were talking kind of about this, how when you're in a home or you're in like a sheltered place, like with four walls, like literally you're in your comfort zone, your box, like you know, they say step outside of the box. Well, like we're living in a box. Yeah. And so it's like, if we stay in, it's like we're staying in that. We're staying in the comfort zone. We're staying in the box. But like, you notice the moment you go outside, the moment you're on a hike or you're doing this or that, it's like all of these things start to drop away. And all of the worries and all of the fear and all of the anxieties, like they start to drop away. So, you know, I think it is obviously so important to, not only that, but to like get sunshine and, you know, get, you know, your feet on the ground and, you know, so many things like that. But the other thing is like definitely alone time is powerful, like
Yeah.
super powerful. So it's not about, like, numbing,
Mm-hmm.
the issue, but it is about just like stepping out of what your comfort zone is. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, well said, well said. I think that's perfect. I mean, I think for me, like, I tended to spend way too much time in the alone time arena, like just
Exactly.
in my apartment, not wanting to leave because I can, because I work from home, because I can get doing stuff on my computer, and we both have tendencies to do that at some times. But then
Hmm.
we both have found that, like, and we've talked about this quite a lot, like our body image stuff acts up when we do that, when we're in for
Hmm.
the day. But then when we challenge ourselves to go work from a coffee shop or to, run errands or whatever, we suddenly feel way better about our bodies. And
Hmm.
also, like, getting dressed and putting on clothes, putting on you know lipstick, like, that's a really great grounding tool. Like, again, it's good to be in this world and of this world, like, really, like, embracing your humanness, because, like we said, like, we do have our higher selves, but right now we're in this human body, so we might as well
Hmm.
enjoy it.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So you inspire me a lot, like,
Mm.
that. And we have secrets and stuff that we only share with each other and now on the podcast. But one thing that you've really helped me with, and makes a lot of sense that you told me, is this thing about bad body image days and how to heal them, from which we talked a little bit about getting out, but really getting into your body to heal them and out of your
Mm.
head. Can you
Hmm.
talk a little bit about what is the best method for healing bad body image, and
Mm.
how that's how you've been able to help yourself with that?
Definitely. Yeah, so I mean, you said it, like when we're having a bad body image day, we are all in the head. We are all in the mind, in like an ego, fear-based thought of basically the future. It's like a projection of not being good enough or being, yeah, it's all of that. And when you can really just like feel your body, tap into your body, move your body, like breathe into your body as you are right now, you start to become best friends with your body, and it changes everything because when you can let go of the mind, and I'm not saying it's easy, but it is easier like when you do practices to tap into your body. And so I think in my experience and with, just, this happened with a client the other day. Like I gave her my really yummy, sexy music playlist, and I said, just play it and kind of like, you know, see what happens. Like, if you want to move your body, I encourage you to move your body, like sway your hips, like whatever. Do like just get into your body and see what happens. Just leaving like the air open for her to experience whatever she wanted to experience with that, with a slight nudge. And and she's told me that, like that she's never really felt as good in her body that moment that she ever has in her life. Like, and I was just like, whoa, like, wow, there's power in this. And I know that there's power in it for my life in my experience with dance and sensual movement and, yeah, like yoga and just really getting into my body and letting go of the mind. But there is so much power in that. And I thought that we were going to talk about this, Katie, because we always talk about how I'm very much into
Yep.
improv movement and you're like the improv speaker. So it's really interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that, when we are having a bad body image day, it is so powerful to, move the body in a way that feels good. Move your body in a way that feels good to you. Like, you don't need to go on a treadmill and run off 500 calories. Like, that is not going to change your body image. That's almost going to make you feel worse. Like, that's not going to do anything. And that's what I used to do in college. I would be like, oh, like I feel feel skinny enough, or I feel fat or whatever. And I would just be like, oh, I have to go to the gym. And I would just, and if you love doing this, then do it. But like typically that's not going to change your body image. What really changes it is, like, in my experience, very authentic sort of body movements and feeling your body from the inside out. And what's been really powerful for me is dance and improv dance, like I mentioned, and letting my body move in a way that no other bodies move. And it's like that thing where it's like you go to the beach and you have the realization, like, wow, there's so many different body types. Like, nobody has the same body type. That's beautiful. And I really experienced that deeply with dance, being around, even if I'm dancing by myself, or in a room of 200 people, it's like, wow, everybody dances differently, and I'm going to allow my body to dance the way my body wants to dance and move, and like that just helps me that just like lets the mind go. It's like, oh, okay, this is me, and it's beautiful.
That's so beautiful. So with dance, how did you discover, I know you've always like had a background with dance, but how did you discover this type of dance in particular, and that dance, like you said, gets you into your body and helps you connect with your sexuality and your femininity, and how did you like figure that out? Did you just start doing it and then notice the effects, and like take us back to like that kind of like start?
Okay, so the start was, I had heard about 5 rhythms, and if you don't know about 5 rhythms and you're listening to it, it's a movement practice, and typically you go to workshops. So I went to a 2-day workshop, and I went to a 2-day workshop. Friday night was like 2 hours. Saturday during the day was like 4 hours or something like that, all dance. And we were working through our issues, like our triggers, our, the things that hold us back in life. We were working through them in dance, in movement. And we were doing all sorts of other practices, like, dancing with other beings. And I remember falling in love. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, like I can work through my stuff, like moving and like getting the endorphins flowing at the same time, and having this movement be so authentic to me. And it was just so beautiful. Like, I remember coming to class, and my teacher, Amber, she was like, she guides you through the dance, and she was like, we're here to do holy work. And that's how she started it. And I was like, I took a breath and like I just felt it so much in my soul. I know that dance is a part of, but we're talking about shamans. Like, shamans would classify, if you're sick, they would ask you, when was the last time you danced?
Really?
Like, yeah, I read that somewhere, and I think it was like,
sense.
When was the last time you laughed? When was the last time you sang? And when was the last time you danced? Yeah. And so I don't know, I just felt it so deep in my body and in my soul. And so that weekend changed a lot for me, because I was, in 5 rhythms in particular, you're dancing through the songs change in reference to 5 rhythms. So you dance through chaos, and it's like, why would you dance through chaos? Well, because the world is chaotic. And so you're dancing to really high, fast songs, and you're moving your body super fast, like really, really fast. And like your body wants to stop, and you want to be like, I'm tired, but like you push yourself because you're wanting to get somewhere deep in yourself to like release. And then you have like a feminine dance, right? And you're supposed to let your body free flow and not make any concrete movements. So you're just like, your hand is moving, your foot is moving, your foot is flowing on the floor, like you're twirling, you're in that kind of fluidness. And then there's like a masculine kind of time when you're like really like strong and like 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 hip hop type of dancing. And like, even if you've never danced before, your body starts to pick up on, oh, okay, this is the music, this is what I'm being guided to do, this is what I'm going to do. So anyways, long story short, I fell in love. And then when I moved, I actually met someone that was in Miami, and I actually met someone there who was like, whoa, you're moving to Berkeley. You have to go to Oakland Ecstatic Dance. It's the best thing ever. So when I went to Berkeley, I went to Oakland Ecstatic Dance for the first time on like a Wednesday night. They have it 2 times a week in this big ballroom, like 300 to 500 people there, a DJ, and movement in whatever way you want to move. So it's like, and it's like a drug and alcohol free zone. It's completely sober, and everyone there, I remember walking in and be like, I like almost cried seeing all of these bodies moving so freely, and it's just so beautiful. And so that became my practice. It like started becoming
Sunday
like what
afternoons.
Yeah.
I would call you right after because I taught yoga at the same time.
I know, and I would probably be like, "Oh my gosh, Katie, it was so good."
Yeah, that's how we would like start the call. It was our little routine for a long time. That was like a long time.
It was. That was the routine, but yeah. So it was. Long story short, like that became like. I mean, I was still practicing yoga, and I still do, but that became like what yoga is to a lot of people, where it's like a practice to release the mind, get in your body, get in your soul, move. But it felt like a much more organic way, where it was like if I wanted to like run across the room and then like slide on my butt and then like jump and then like go on someone's shoulders and then like shake really fast and then lay on the floor, I could do that. Mm-hmm. And it was like felt so primal and so just like really, really, really authentic, and like my body was learning to release and let go of the mind and just experience sensation and however it wanted to move, and that changed so much for me.
And I want to get up and just start moving now.
Can we do it? Like, let's just dance.
Yeah, that was amazing. Dancing is like a moving meditation. You know, they often say that about yoga, but it's really a moving meditation. It's a way to really free yourself, I think.
Yes.
And you've inspired me in that so much.
Yes.
So you're probably the most sexually free and open person. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. I think that you are. And comparatively with me, you've helped me embrace my femininity and sexuality a lot, which is an area that, like, you know, I think both of us have been blocked in some ways in our lives. But you've really recently been focusing on that area of life, and have you always felt connected in that way to yourself? And why is it important to connect to your femininity and to connect to your sexuality, and how can you help other people do that and discover their own sexy self-care?
So, well, thank you for the compliment. I guess I need to see myself in that light more.
You know that you inspire me like that. I tell you that all the time.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things.
You got to just own it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
So, what can I say here? So, actually, you know what? You inspired me a lot, because you, not inspired me, but like you took action in the Kiminami course, which inspired me to take action in the Layla Martin course.
Yeah, well, Kiminami, just for everyone listening, is someone who is a sex and relationships coach, I think is what she calls herself. But she's awesome. She's really into holistic health and lifestyle, and she's super cool. I actually recorded a podcast with her a couple months ago, but that one's going to come out after the one you're listening to right now. And like Carly said, I took her course, which was really powerful for me. And then I told Carly all about this course. And when we were in Florida together, when we were hanging out, and we would take these like really long early morning sunrise walks on the beach, which were amazing, and so much truth would come out, kind of like their car ride. And I remember like saying to you, I was like, Carly, you inspire me so much in this area, and like Kiminami's great, but I think that you should have some sort of, you know, offering to the world in this particular area. And I think at the time you didn't have anything, around these particular topics. Your offerings online talked more about personal development, spirituality, and food, and body image, but nothing really around this. So I think that was kind of like, we just had this conversation and I was like, you've helped me so much. We should probably help other people too.
Yeah. Well, so this is a big part of what I found is like, when I had that realization and you had the realization of oh wow, I'm focusing so much on food and nutrition and self-development, I was like, what actually do I need? And something that I actually do with clients is like this life wheel where I, give all sorts of things, then you rate, and then you make this circle and you see like where in your life you're lacking. And like a lot of, like for me a while ago, was like my sensuality, my sexuality, love, partnership, relationship, all sorts of that was all lacking. And I could see that my nutrition and my food and my all of that stuff was really high. So I was like, maybe I need to spend less time on this stuff and more time on the other stuff, and maybe my life will balance out, maybe my body will balance out. And that's an amazing realization. But I find a lot of times, especially if you're listening and you have body shame, your tendency is to have a lot of sexual shame as well, for sure. Because if you don't feel good in your body alone, in general, you're generally not going to feel good with a partner, and you're generally also not going to feel good exploring your own sense of pleasure, because it's almost like if you're in that deep place of body shame, you feel like you almost don't deserve pleasure in a sense, in a way. But it's the opposite. And when you can give yourself that and honor your desires and honor that we're all sexual beings, like we need to procreate to live on life. And it's interesting. I said this, I think, with Maddie. Did I say this on Maddie's podcast? That I said, maybe it wasn't Maddie's, but the two things that we need to live on life, food and sex. We do. We need these things to keep life going. And it's like we as women find a lot of shame in these areas. And it's really interesting to think about. But so I think it is extremely important to regain your sense of, sensuality and femininity and pleasure in your own body, and find that deep self-care from the inside out. And that is one of the reasons why I created the Sexy Self-Care course that's launching soon. Launching now. Yeah. It's, but it's not, I guess it's not what everyone would think it is. I'm not a sex coach,
Tell me all about it.
Okay. So I'm not a sex coach, like that's not my thing. But in my small little ways, I can help people awaken that within themselves. And it's about the small things. So basically the self-care course is a 28-day course where every day you get a different ritual. And I find ritual so powerful, so powerful in our lives. And they're all, every day you get a new ritual in self-care and like deeply caring for yourself. And they range from, dance. I do a couple dance movement exercises, yoga classes, sometimes just mindset shifts, journal exercises, different meditations, pranayama, or breath work. And I find that when we connect so deeply with ourselves, we're able to then, and in that way, deeply caring, we're able to then give ourselves that pleasure. But in small ways, like I'll say one of the days, I don't remember which day this is. It's like, this is one of my favorite days though. It's like, cook dinner tonight in nothing but your underwear, or nothing, or something really sexy. And I know we talked about this, Katie, of like, just get like super cozy and then in the kitchen. But I find it so powerful to, get really feeling like really almost bare or sexy first, like fill yourself up on that first, and maybe move your body first, and maybe just like get into your body before you get in the kitchen and cook from that space. And that's a really beautiful way to, and obviously you can't do that probably every night or every day, but that's one of the rituals, that's one of the practices, one of the days. It's going to be super fun to us, all of us do it at the same time, all of us women, you know, in our kitchens with nothing on. I'm going to be super happy that day that that's going on in the world.
Yeah,
but
that's so cool.
But yeah, that's like, it's almost, it's these little things that maybe you would know to do, but you don't push yourself to do. And so I find that with the group support and with, you know, your accountability. Yeah. You're being accountable to give yourself these gifts. And sometimes we just don't give ourselves the gifts that we know that we need. And so the course is going to be incredible. I believe that anyone who wants to up their self-care, like wants to love themselves, their body more, to join, like, you know, Katie is going to be there, and we're going to have a ton of fun.
Yeah. I'm so psyched. Like, going back to well, first of all, I'm just so proud of you. Like, this is going to be amazing. Like, you guys, she showed me, she stayed up late editing, and she's, like, worked so hard on this, and she, like, will send me clips of the videos and some of the photos, and it's just, like, epic and amazing, and I'm just so proud of you, Carly. But as far as the like, cooking in the kitchen thing, again, like, it's one of those things that I know I need to do, and we've both talked about this. It's really easy when you're making dinner, something that my tendency would just be to, like, you know, put my really comfy pajamas on, like, wash my face, and, like, be in, like, these, like, comfy, goofy pajamas, like those pink pants remember those pink pants? I wear those all the time to sleep. And it was mostly because, like, I was cold, and, like, I just was like, whatever. But Carly and I talked about this a lot. Like, you had this mentor who would, like, come into the kitchen, like, put coconut oil in her hair and wear, like, cool shoes and flowy, beautiful clothes. And so, like, even if you're on the day that, like, you know, your roommate's home or something,
right,
and you aren't going to be, like, sexy cooking in the kitchen, like, maybe you could just wear something that's, like, not like these, like, goofy pink pants that I have, and is slightly, like, more feminine and more sexy, and can make you in tune to your body instead of just, like, covering it up with, like, as much weird fabric as you can. Carly made fun of my pink goofy pants.
But yeah, it's like that. I love that I told you that image.
Yeah, and it really stuck with me. It was just something that you told me. You told me that a long time ago. But
it was 4 or 5 years ago, but I remember the space being so nourishing, and this is one of the things. It's like, we don't crave food alone. Obviously, we crave nourishment in many ways, but in pertaining to the food, we crave the whole experience. So we crave the lighting being perfect. We crave the candles. We crave the smells coming from the oven. We crave, you know, the music playing in the background. We crave all of that. Like, that's all a huge part of it. And when you can give yourself that space, and like I said, we have busy lives. You can't probably do that every night. But when you can give yourself that space, like, you feel full faster. You feel nourished. You feel like, you know, it's a way to tap in. It's just a way to tap into your body in the moment. And it's just a way more magical, I feel, experience with food and with
pleasure.
With pleasure.
Yeah. So good. I'm so excited about that. So if you guys want to do this with myself and my best friend Carly, there will be a link in the show notes, and you should totally do this with us and hang out, and I will be doing it and sharing, and we all should do it together. And yeah, I think it'll be a really good time. So
And there's tons of recipes, and I got basically every day there's a new recipe from a different like nutritionist or health coach from all over, because I felt like everyone has a different style, everyone has different flavors, and so I wanted to kind of make it all encompassing. So there's a different recipe from really rad people that have shared really delicious things. So that's really exciting too.
So cool. I'm so excited. It's going to be so fun.
So fun.
Cool. All right. Well, now we're going to do some quick fire questions. Are you ready for them?
I don't know.
You got this.
Okay.
All right. So, first of all, let's talk a bit quickfire-y about your morning routines and some of the specifics of how you're starting your day, and something, you know, that we've talked to about, like, we've been dogmatic about food and we've been dogmatic about routines, but how is your routine fluid, and what are some like staples that are pretty constant?
Yeah, so staple in the morning is to wake up, and first thing I do honestly is light a candle, and then I'll place my one hand on my heart and one hand on my belly and just breathe for like 3 to 5 minutes and just breathe with myself. That's like a really beautiful way for me to wake up. And then I like to journal in the morning. I actually share in the course, day one is journaling, and like really awesome, rad questions for morning and night that I found have really helped myself and my clients just like really ground into the day and the moment. And so I like to journal. Ever since I've been doing Layla's course, Jade Pleasure, I've actually been incorporating some jade egg type of exploration in the morning, because I find that it can be they're like, you know, different pleasure meditations. It's like yoga for pleasure. And I find that some of them can be really energizing. So morning time is looking like that sometimes for me. And then I like to always drink a ton of water in the morning. After that, hydrate a lot, like a quart of water. And this helps so many people too. I put like a teaspoon of sea salt in it, and that kind of fires up the adrenals and gives myself energy for the day. And it's like nature's coffee almost. It helps cleanse the colon, and it's just really good. And that just feels really, really like nourishing to me. So that's always in the morning. And then movement. I love to move in the mornings, whether I'm getting on my yoga mat or playing music and just freaking dancing my butt off. I love to move in the mornings a lot. And then, shower, and while I'm getting ready for the day, probably listen to your podcast or a podcast of some sort. And so that's my morning routine lately, and it's been really lovely.
That sounds amazing.
Yes.
So what about in the evenings? What are some things you do to wind down and relax?
Yeah. So I usually really like to put my phone away at least, like, if I can, an hour before bed. But sometimes that's not a reality these days.
Sometimes we're texting or
and sometimes like being in love or like with you or with, you know, like just like having a really deep loving conversation with someone is so nourishing, to the point where like I'm just like, okay, I'll leave my phone on, but like I won't look at the light of it. I'll just turn it really, you know, because the light of the phone kind of suppresses melatonin. But anyways, so it's
not great, but it's also something to beat yourself up about.
Yes, if you're connecting with someone that's really nourishing your soul, then stay with it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I do really like to at least spend the last 30 minutes before bed like totally like grounding into my body again. So sometimes it looks like just putting my feet up the wall for 5 minutes and then like laying in Supta Baddha Konasana, like reversed butterfly, or like getting into child's pose, like just really nourishing, grounding yin poses of yoga, and just breathing for a moment in these poses and kind of letting the whole day go. Because, you know, no matter what we do in the day, so much happens. Like, so much goes on in the day. So I really like to get into some poses before bed. And someone actually said this to me, like all animals actually, before they fall asleep, you see like they stretch, like they're like, they're like yawning and stretching. But a lot of times we just like get into bed and turn the lights off and go. So I really like getting back into my body at nighttime, deeply like that. And then doing some nighttime journal exercises. And if I'm sometimes I'll get on my Layla grind and Jade Pleasure this course that I'm studying.
We should tell everyone
body course.
So similar to what we discussed about Keminami, Layla Martin also has a course that Carly is in, and both courses, the one that I took and the one that Carly is in, focus on this jade egg practice, which you'll hear a lot more about in the podcast with Keminami. But it's basically, you tell what it is. It's
well, I'm not a teacher in it, but I could tell you from my experience, it's definitely, and I'll tell you from Layla's course, it's like meditations and tantric kind of meditations and different things to awaken your sexuality, to awaken your sexual potential, and to release sexual baggage. And so for me, it's like it's like bringing meditation and yoga into my sense of sensuality, and it's so cool for me to take it in that place. So,
and it can also strengthen your vaginal area and help
your orgasms.
Muscles.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Cool. So I meant to ask you this earlier, actually, but you traveled a lot this last year. You went to a couple different places, and what was that experience like?
Okay, travel, yes. So it was interesting because when I went to Thailand, when I went to do my travels, a big part of it was I realized that I was so in my mind about my body, like at that time, and I was just, even though I was having a lot of transformation, I was still very much in that place. And I remember actually I was moving out of my place and I had this huge superfood like cabinet of like every herb, every spice, every like superfood powder and potion and this and that. And I gave it all away. And a part of it was like, I need to release this like control over food and body, even though it's like I'm feeding myself to nourish myself. I was like, I need to experience life like in adventure, in life as it is in reality, without being in this box that I've created for myself. So I went to Thailand, and it was a really beautiful experience to travel alone, solo, to meet people from all over the world. And while I was there, I also did a lot of studying. I studied Chenit Song, which is Thai abdominal massage, which I actually teach a little bit in the course, as well as doing my yoga teacher training, which brought so much to me too. But I think that the biggest part for me was, doing it alone and being able to navigate the world. Like, I just gained so much confidence in myself. I think that brought it. Yeah, that was a huge part of it, is I just felt like I could tackle anything, So I came back really inspired to create a new website and to do this work. And, it just brought me a lot of confidence that, I can travel anywhere. I could do anything. I can do what I want. Yeah.
Cool. What is one area in your life that you feel really confident in?
What is one area in my life that I feel really confident in? I would say authentic movement and touch. Cool.
What is one area that you feel like you're still struggling in?
I guess, I don't know, like for a long time it's been, and I know we talked about this, like really grounding into society of like all of the stuff like making money and having like a real life and not being all in spirit all the time. So I think that if I were to say my struggle, it would be letting go of the idea that I can't get back to a place of like being in the forest or, like that kind of feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
That's good to share. Favorite yoga pose?
Wheel.
Favorite day of the week?
I like them all. I guess I would say Thursday? I don't know.
That's mine too.
Oh, of course.
Duh. Favorite hour of the day?
12:24. Well, that was really exact, but my favorite number is 24. So
yeah. People would probably be like, "What?" What's the hardest time you've laughed?
The hardest time I've laughed?
Yeah, or like recently, or one that comes to your mind.
Oh my gosh, yesterday I had I was laughing all freaking day yesterday. It was probably the best thing ever, but one thing that comes to mind is like I was on the airplane with my sister and Brennan, her boyfriend, and there was like all this condensation in the air, but like it was like almost like it looked like gas and it smelled really bad, and we were like covering our heads with our blankets and like with our jackets and like hysterically laughing for hours. It was so funny.
Oh my god, that's really funny. Favorite beauty ritual?
Favorite beauty ritual? Maybe like a really nice, nourishing bath with lots of essential oils and salts and, coconut oil.
Very good. Okay, so it's, 8 p.m. You get home after a long dance session or something, or teaching yoga, and you're hungry, and you get home. What do you do? Do you get food? Do you make food? Tell us what you would do. Go.
Well, it's different every time depending on the day, of course, but generally I would use my blender to create like some type of I've been creating lots of like nourishing actually ice creams. So I would say that because it's really fun to like add like coconut milk and coconut milk ice cubes and like maca and like sometimes fruit and like all sorts of stuff and make this delicious ice cream. So
she's like she moonlights as like an ice cream-ateur. I don't know if that's
and it's so fast. That's why I love the blender. It's just like you can make a meal really, really quickly. So probably something in the blender.
What's your go-to breakfast lately?
My go-to breakfast is an acai bowl.
Yeah, so good. I want one right now. Favorite meal you've had recently, like maybe in the last week? Best that you've eaten?
Let's see. I feel like I haven't had anything recently that was like, whoa. But the last thing that I remember that was like, whoa. I go to this place. I like to make things myself, but if I'm going out, I go to this place called Green Bar. You actually went there with me.
It was so good.
And they have this like salad with truffle dressing that I love with like avocado and like.
Didn't we get that? We shared
spicy
like 2
tempeh.
things.
Yeah, we got that. And then they just like added new things to the menu. Ooh. And it's just really good. Yeah.
It was really good. I loved it there.
Yeah.
What does your ideal day look like?
No matter what it looks like, being really connected to my body, moving my body in some way or shape or form, connecting with lovers, friends, and feeling really nourished by presence. And yeah. So it doesn't really matter what I do as long as I have those things.
Favorite on-the-go snack?
Apples.
Apples are so good. Okay, if you were trapped on an island and you could only take with you one season of a TV show to watch or a movie, one loved one book, and one food,
whoa.
What would you take? Go.
Okay, so the first one's really hard because I don't really watch that much TV or movies, and that's like the worst for me. But if I was trapped and I could only, I would take the season of Lost, the whole every season of Lost, because that was like one of my favorite shows, and I didn't end up watching the last season.
And it might actually kind of help you get off the island.
Yeah, exactly. I would like figure some shit out.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
What was the next one?
Book. So it'd definitely be something you'd want to like read over and over again, like, you know.
Tantra by Osho.
Okay, and a food.
Coconut.
Those might be on the island, so I mean, I don't know.
Should I bring something else?
Yeah. No, you can bring it. I mean, just in case. Maybe it's not tropical. Maybe you're on like an island in Alaska.
Mangoes.
Yeah, okay, cool. And what person? Who would you take with you that you wouldn't get sick of?
You.
Oh my gosh. That sounds fun. Let's go. Pack your coconuts and mangoes.
Yeah.
And we'll watch
I'll meet you there.
Yeah, it sounds great. Okay, cool. Favorite vacation?
Favorite vacation? My favorite place I've ever been to, I guess it's not really a vacation there, but Umpqua Hot Springs in Oregon is magical. I actually camped out there for a couple nights in the hot springs there, and the river is just so powerful, so natural, so beautiful. So that's my favorite place I've ever been to. I'll say that.
Let's go. We should visit there too.
It's amazing.
Okay, so I didn't have this question yet when I interviewed you the first time, and now it's become, as you know, my signature question for everyone who comes on the show. So when I offer the term wellness wonderland to you, Carly, to live in a wellness wonderland, what does that mean to you? What comes up?
What comes up is living in a reality that you're consciously creating. So living in your own creation, like living in a way that you're nourishing yourself from the inside out in so many ways, from like your thoughts to your activities to your pleasure to your food to your everything, but you know, noticing that you are the creator and choosing to empower yourself to live the best life that is your birthright.
That's beautiful. We often call that like cartoon world or like Katie and Carly world, when like, you know, the parking spot opens up and the book falls off the shelf and these synchronicities keep happening. So I agree, and I love that. Thank you so much for coming back on the show and sharing all the wisdom that you shared and being my friend and just being yourself. I'm really glad that you exist and we are on the planet at the same time, and I love you. And yeah, anything else that you want to say to Wonderland?
I love you, everyone. But I love you, everyone, too. But thank you so much for everything, like saying all of that, and for this whole thing. This was, like we said, the best way to wake up. Thank you so much.
We're recording this really early in the morning, so.
Yes, and it wasn't a joke when I said I would bring you on the island with me.
Oh, I love you so much.
I
can't wait
too.
to go. Who knows, we'll probably be recording from an island someday, so. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Peace.
Peace, Wonderland.
Thanks for listening. You made it all the way to the end. I'll be back next week, but until then, let's stay inspired and keep this conversation going. So tweet at me at Katie Dalebout and our guest with your aha moments from this conversation. And like the Wellness Wonderland on Facebook, so we can all hang out there and discuss how inspired we are and how we'll apply it in our daily lives. And never miss another episode or post from me by signing up for email updates on thewellnesswonderland.com. See you back in Wonderland.